I am Rachel.
And I'm Meg. And this is Ger Can Get It. This week, Vietnam flashbacks! What?
If they gave awards for makeouts on screen or stage, this guy would get a lifetime achievement. He'll find any excuse to get right to suck and face. You honestly wouldn't believe it. Dissecting each and every kiss with tongue. There's only one conclusion to come to. It's that Ger can get it. Ger can get it.
Did you ever watch the really shitty Vampire High TV show?
I'm sorry, there was a TV show about vampires in high school?
Yes. They are at a secret boarding school for vampires, which during the day is a boarding school for regular people. And at night, it's a boarding school for vampires.
But if it's a boarding school, aren't the human students still there at night?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I feel like I found a flaw in their plan.
Yeah, but they're in bed. It's fine. Why are you assigning logic to this, Meg? It doesn't matter. There's two rival factions of vampires, and one are like, I'm pretty sure we should kill all humans and then enslave the ones that we don't kill and then rule the world. And then the other ones are like, I'm pretty sure we should just be nice to everybody. And they've been at war for a long time. And so this is an experiment to prove that you can take younger vampires and make it so they can integrate into humanity by going to this school, which is taught by this guy who is a unknown supernatural entity. And since it got canceled immediately, we never know who it is.
No, I'm following you. My raised eyebrow has nothing to do with confusion.
It doesn't matter. There's two things here that are relevant. One is there's the young hot guy who died in the 50s, so he has sideburns and he's the hot, trendy, hip guy. And he falls in love with the most basic bitch at the boarding school. I'm pretty sure she has a pair of velour sweatpants that say juicy on the butt. And he's like, oh, she's so elegant and she's so demure and I love her so much. And he sneaks into her dreams. Anyway. It's worth it for that because...
I'm sorry, what? He sneaks into her dreams?
Shh, it's fine. Shh. But one of the vampires was in Vietnam. And that's what it reminded me of because there's a whole scene where he remembers what it's like.
Oh, I thought you were going to say one of the actors from this was in that. And I was like, which one of these grown men was in Vampire High School?
No, there's a flashback and it takes place in the boarding school. So it's jungle plants in the boarding school kind of thing like they have in this. And so it reminded me of Vampire High.
So this week we're discussing an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Everything else that we've done with Ger, somehow he's always in the remake of a thing that existed previously. So there's the Alfred Hitchcock Presents series from the 50s and 60s, and then there's one from the 80s and 90s, which I think is maybe called the new Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but only on every third website. But it's the one from the 80s and 90s, obviously, is the one that Ger was in. So it's season 4, episode 19, Reunion. It's from 1989. Ger plays a character called Paul Stebbins. And that's really all that I know for sure about...
About what happens in this?
That's all that I really know for sure about what happens in this episode, because everything else that I'm going to say is me making a real educated guess and me trying real hard. Oh, yeah. I know he was in Vietnam. I know that for certain. He was in Vietnam and he was part of Bravo Company and his colonel was called Colonel Stacy. And then that's all I got. Everything after this is me trying really hard. But I really enjoyed this. I really liked this episode. I watched it 3 times and at the end I'm like, I'm not 100%. Am I really stupid? Is that do you get where I feel that way, or are you like, no, this is very straightforward?
Yeah, it was very ambiguous what was actually happening.
It feels kind of like, when you watch a what was his? Why can't I think of his name? The director who does all the twists.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Thank you. It's like when you watch an M. Night Shyamalan movie and you're like, okay, a twist is coming, and the twist happens. Sometimes you're like, but, okay, wait a minute. No, the twist doesn't make sense. But you said this 2 minutes ago. Was that them lying, or were they confused, or was that where you're like, okay, I like a twist, but I feel like you gave me a twist at the expense of some of the things that you've told me already, and you didn't explain away some of the things you told me. But okay, so it starts off with Paul Stebbins looking real dapper, looking real nice in his suit. And this is the one time where Ger wears a tie and he's not evil. So like, what?
I know.
But and he looks real good. His hair's like real short and sassy. He's got like whoever dressed him like understood the assignment. Like, thank you. Thank you. We've had so many weeks of rubber rats and fucking robot shit. And like, I just, and communists. And like, I realize that this is the Vietnam War. I realize that there are still communists in theory.
They're not Russians though.
They're not Russians though. They're not Russian robot scientists. There aren't helicopters. There aren't nuclear bomb sites. Dick Van Dyke isn't a cyborg sent here to kill me. Like, I just, Ger showing up and being like, hi, I'm a normal person to a front door wearing a nice suit, and he hits on a lady, and I was like, thank you. I missed this.
God.
I needed this so much with my whole heart. I needed like a back to the roots Ger performance. So he shows up, he looks real nice. The lady of the house, Mrs. Stacy, opens the front door, and immediately she hits on him and he hits on her, and I was like, yes, good. She's like, oh, like you're so cute and young, and I like got to keep you away from my daughter because her marriage is on the rocks. And I was like, yes, good. He compliments her and says that she looks really nice because he's never not on the prowl, even in this. Like, so he shows up, he meets her. She's like, yeah, I'm not, because he's at the house for the reunion. That's really all we know, the reunion of Bravo Company. And he's like, oh, are you not sticking around? And she's like, no, part pass. So she leaves. And then the rest of the night, all the other members, wow, I just became a little kid. Members. All the
other members, yeah.
All the members of Bravo Company start showing up one by one, and they end up reenacting the final battle that they had, and then at the end of the night, Ger leaves. Like, that's the broad strokes of what happens, but because all the details that happen in between are like a little fuzzy for me. So Ger shows up. You see him outside the house. He has a car. You see the front of the house, and there's another car there, but it looks like it's probably the car of Colonel Stacy's wife, Mrs. Stacy, because it's like parked to the side. Ger gets out of his car. He walks up to the front door. Mrs. Stacy sees him, talks to him, acknowledges him. He comes inside the house. Mrs. Stacy pours him a drink. Not the drink he asked for, which I think is kind of hilarious. I want to, like, it makes me want to host people at my house now so that I can do that, where you ask them what they want to drink, and Ger's character is like, oh, I want a gin and tonic, and she's like, no, that's like a fancy drink. I'm going to give you
whiskey in a glass with a single ice cube.
One,
Here
yeah,
you go. And it's like half a glass.
Yeah,
it's like 4 fingers of whiskey.
Yeah. She plies him with whiskey, and then is like, we're cool. All right, I don't want to stick around for this, and she leaves. Like I said, the other members of Bravo Company, they pop up one at a time, and the first guy that comes in, the names don't matter, I don't remember the names. The first guy that comes in talks to Ger about how he is now in acting classes in Brooklyn. He is currently taking acting classes, and he's like, I'm going to steal some tchotchkes and knickknacks from Mrs. Stacy's china cabinet. She leaves this stuff here for us every year. She puts new stuff in, so we take it, we pawn it, we get some money. Like, it's just a fun little game that we all have where I rob her every year. So he's like, I'm going to steal some of these little knickknacks, and I'm going to use it to pay for my acting classes, which I am currently taking. And I currently work for a limo company. Did you see the limo outside? I drive that for Gotham Limos. Like, I currently have a job. And then one of the other guys, who I think it's their lieutenant. Other people make comments about him selling stocks and bonds. So him being a trader, currently in this moment being a trader. And Ger's character is apparently a defense attorney. So he makes comments about this case that he's working on currently as a defense attorney. So I think those are the only 3 that make comments about, like, we have jobs right now. And all the other ones are just kind of goofing around and whatever. So they have a big toast to Colonel Stacy, who they say is their fallen leader. Stacy is not there. And so I'm like, okay, this is the reunion of everybody else at Colonel Stacy's widow's house. They're at the widow's house. They're having their reunion. They're doing a toast to Colonel Stacy because he died during the war. And they're reminiscing about the war, and they're like catching up with each other, and then they're going to leave. But that's not how it plays out. At the end of this, it looks like Colonel Stacy and Ger are the only ones who are alive. And I'm like, okay. I understand that, except for the ones who were like, no, we currently have jobs. And then because I was like, if they had been talking like, when, here's our plans, like I want to be an actor, I want to take an acting class, I want to be a trader, I want to be a lawyer, then I'd be like, okay, this is Ger remembering things that they said during the war and like what their plans were, and their plans just never got into fruition. But it's weird to me that they're like, no, we currently actively have these jobs. And also I pulled up in a limo. Did you see my limo for the job that I currently have? And so I'm like, okay, like it's weird to like give me that and then reveal that these characters are ghosts. So then when I was like, okay, these characters are talking about like their current jobs, thinking that Colonel Stacy is dead, I was like, is Ger's character a ghost? Because when he shows up, they're like, we've been waiting on you a long time. Hey, new timer. Hey, young guy. Hey, newcomer. And Mrs. Stacy's like, oh, this is your first reunion. This is the first time you've done this, but it's been at least 15 years since Vietnam ended, because one of the guys makes a comment like, we've been doing this for 15 years. And maybe now that you're here, we'll finally be able to figure out what exactly went wrong in this final battle that screwed us all over. And then they throw like, what do you call it? They throw fatigues at Ger and they make him change in the middle of the evening. And then they make Ger participate in reenacting this final battle in Colonel Stacy's living room, which sounds goofy and is goofy, but they film it in a way that I thought was really good. Like I was engaged.
It was well done. Yeah.
So they play it like we're going to try and like move the furniture around. So it's sort of like what our final foxholes were like in the jungle in Vietnam. And we'll move things around so they kind of approximate the position of the terrain, and then we're going to reenact what happened. And maybe now that we're all here, we'll be able to piece together exactly like what went wrong. So like it sounds goofy, and you can still see they've like turned a couch over, they've moved some of our houseplants over, and they're like, okay, put the tape on, and they have like an audio recording of like jungle birds. It's goofy, it's very goofy. But then they turn the lights off and they change the lighting and they add like a little bit of smoke, and everyone really, even the actors who were kind of being hammy during the first half of this, all of a sudden they all get really serious, and you can still tell it's a living room. Like you can still see like this is the couch that's turned over and this is the fireplace, whatever. But like it feels very immediate, like you're there with them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
yeah.
I really liked that, but I was like, okay, so so my point is that like Ger's character comes in a suit, and they're like, why are you wearing a suit? And then one of the characters that will be revealed to be a ghost throws clothes at him, and then he changes, like he kind of walks off camera and then walks back on, like wearing fatigues and his army tags and everything, his dog tags. And then he's like part of the thing with them. So I was like, are they calling him new timer or like young guy because he died after?
Short timer. I think they call him short timer.
Short timer. Thank you. Short timer. So I was like, are they calling him short timer because he has died since the war ended and this is his first like ghost reunion? But then at the end, he talks to the colonel and he's like, Colonel, you got to forget all this shit and like go on with your life. Like, yes, like you made mistakes during the war and it's your fault that everyone died, but like we all got to move on. Like you have to let them rest in peace, and then you have to rest in peace. And I was like, wait, why are you telling him to rest in peace? Like, I know that you just mean like you need to move on, but using that language makes me go, wait, is he dead? So, okay, so this is going to be very confusing to listen to. So,
okay, wait, no. Short timer was like, I was looking it up to see if it was a specific slang, and it is.
Oh.
And it's a term coined during the Vietnam War to describe personnel approaching the end of their tour or term of service.
Well, now I'm more confused because it sounds like if that's what they're calling him now, doesn't that lend credence to the like he's dead too theory? Like your time here on the earthly plane is almost over. So
in Vietnam, let's see, it was usual to try to get a short timer out of the field and back to a safe rear area job for his last 30 days in country. So short timer meaning that he's in the last part of his tour of service.
Yeah, but how does that? I feel like that lends credence to the he's dead too.
It could have just meant that when they went through the battle, he was close to it was close to his time to leave.
It could be.
Or it could mean that like he is close to the short timer, as in him being here represents the end of what they're doing.
Well, I think that's accurate. It's okay. So I feel like this is going to be very confusing to listen to. So let me go back a second. So the first half of this is presented as everyone having the reunion at their dead colonel's house, and they're trying to reenact their final battle to figure out exactly what went wrong and why their colonel died at the final battle. And then when we're at the house, you see the colonel and you kind of think that he's a ghost. Like you see him kind of pop up. They're having a toast to him at their dining room table, and they're toasting the empty chair. And then the chair, it's like Macbeth all over again. The chair all of a sudden isn't empty. the colonel is sitting there.
Right.
And then as they're planning their like reenactment, you see the colonel standing in the background, kind of silently watching them through windows. And then we do the reenactment, and all of a sudden during the reenactment, it's 7 soldiers plus the colonel. So 6 of them die during the reenactment, and they die like real deaths. Like you see like blood come out of them. They really die.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, it's just Ger and the colonel. But the colonel I thought was dead in the reenactment, but he's at least passed out. So Ger drags the colonel to like the safe spot where a helicopter is going to get them, or did get them in the past. And then it cuts to Ger and the colonel talking at the colonel's table in his den, his desk in his den. And Ger's like, yeah, it was your fault. You made bad decisions. You split up Bravo Company when you shouldn't have. And that's why everybody died. But like, you got to get over it. I got over it. Like, we're all getting over it. Goodbye. But so like, it's the first half is you think the colonel's dead, and then you realize that actually everybody else is dead. I don't know if the colonel did die or not, because when you see him in the reenactment, I think what happens is a grenade goes off very near him, because they mentioned the grenade a couple of times. But then when you see him fall over, he has blood on his like face, on like his forehead. And Ger's like, oh, I think he's dead. And then one of the other guys is like, I think one of the other lieutenants is like, no, he's not. I don't even know if he says he's not. Just get him to the helicopter. I'm not leaving him here. I'm not leaving his body here. You get him to the helicopter. So it's unclear to me whether he did die or did not die. And at the very beginning of this whole thing, you see Mrs. Stacy sitting in her bedroom looking at a young picture of the colonel. And she's like, I hate these nights. I hate these reunions. And then she almost says something else. And it sounds sort of like, I wish that, like, if only, I think she says if only. And it sounds like she's saying, like, if only you were here. I wish that you were here. I miss you. Like, I miss my dead husband. And then she leaves for the rest of the night. So like, I don't know what to make of what actually happened, because I kind of feel like this is all purgatory. Like, Ger's character has just died. He's just joined the rest of them. Now they can finally complete their reenactment of everything. They can figure out what happened. And just for some reason, the colonel is not with them like they're like in a different, I don't know, it's like they're in hell and he's in purgatory, or vice versa. Like, he's not there with them, but Ger's character is able to cross through and say like, yes, this was your fault, but like, they're all dead. You're dead. I'm dead. Like, we gotta move on now. Like, time has passed. Like, we're done with this. But that feels weird too, that you've got like ghosts who can't interact with each other outside of the reenactment. I don't know. I feel like I don't fully understand. It makes me feel kind of I watched this 3 times. And I feel like it is a little bit the fault of the program, because I think what they think they're doing is they're doing like a real simple switcheroo. Like, Ger's alive. He shows up to the house. You think that Colonel Stacy is dead. Colonel Stacy is alive, and it's just Colonel Stacy and Ger reminiscing. Like, I think that's what they want you to get out of it. I think that's probably like the intention. But like, watching it, there are so many ambiguities. And then like the short timer thing, you're probably right that they're just calling him short timer because like they know it's Vietnam slang, and probably when he was in the firefight, he was a short timer. He was like set to get on the next plane home like shortly thereafter. Yeah. And so they kept calling him short timer. And so now he's still short timer. Like, that was their nickname for him. But it feels like, it feels weird. And then the whole, like, Ger has never been to these reunions before. Ger's character, it's been 15 years and everyone else has shown up every single year, but not Ger's character. And I'm like, well, everyone else has been dead since before the end of the war. So the very first reunion, they would have all still been dead. So the fact that this is his first one, I'm like, okay, are you dead? Like, is that why it's the first time you can join, and just for whatever reason, Mrs. Stacy she's drunk enough that she can see you? Like, what? I don't know.
So here's do you want my interpretation?
I do. Yes. No, okay. I do. Yes.
Okay. So here's what my thought is. Is that Colonel Stacy and Ger are the only ones who are not dead.
Okay.
And so Ger agrees to participate in Colonel Stacy's reunion, not really knowing what's going to happen, because when he shows up, he's wearing a suit. That's why Miss Stacy is like, "Oh, you're not dressed correctly." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a dress code." And she's like, "Oh, it's okay. It'll be fine." And then the first couple of guys that show up, you can it's almost like they've arrived the way Ger did. They just let themselves in because the one guy mentions like there's a whatever outside. And then as the rest of them arrive, they become increasingly less like believable that they came in by the door. Because like remember they leave the dining room, they go back in the dining room and the one guy's just sitting at the table.
Yeah, they just kind of pop up.
Yeah, so as time goes on, it gets more and more surreal how they're arriving. And they're all wearing like their full uniforms. And they sit down and have that like toast. And then Colonel Stacy arrives and it's supposed to look like Colonel Stacy is the ghost and everybody else is alive.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have to figure out what happened. We have to figure out why, because Colonel Stacy came back for us. He didn't have to come back for us and he did. So we owe it to him to figure out what happened. And that's when they're talking to Ger about like, okay, now that you're here, we're going to do the thing where we go through the memory to try to figure out what happened. And that's when they set everything up and they get him to change into fatigues. And they go through the whole thing, including Colonel Stacy, where you see Ger kind of get blown up with a grenade. And we mentioned it earlier where they're like, you survived because you were right next to that grenade, or you were like not as close to the grenade as some of the rest of us or whatever. Like they mentioned it earlier and you see it in the flashback. But then I think it's supposed to be because he was the short timer, he wasn't in the thick of the fighting the way the rest of them were, because I gather short timers were usually not put in the middle of everything because it's the last of they're literally going home within 30 days.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, short timer, you take the colonel and try to get him to the helicopter. So he drags the colonel off because the colonel is wounded and they need to get him like medically lifted out. So Ger and the colonel are the only ones that survive. So at the end, he tells him, listen, you have to accept that it was your fault. And you have to stop asking them to do this so that they can rest in peace. And I think the ambiguity is supposed to be whether they are actually there, or like whether they're ghosts and they're there, or whether they are like, because you know when Ger is looking at the picture at the beginning and Miss Stacy is like, oh yeah, that's a real cute picture of you guys. And he's like, you don't understand what it was like to be in Vietnam and to like be surrounded by the jungle and to be surrounded by people who wanted to kill you. And he like goes off on this really intense rant about what it's like to be in the military.
Yeah. I thought that was really good when he just goes into memory.
Yeah. And what it does to the people that are part of it and how it like binds you together. And I think this is supposed to be like they are so bound together because of what they went through together that they will even come back after death for their colonel, because he came back for them and he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And so I think all of the stories of them like having jobs is just like they're ghosts, but they don't necessarily know they're ghosts.
So that's okay. That's the other point I wanted to hit on, because I feel like I can see why, based on when they all died, I can see why at least some of them think the colonel is dead if he's not dead. Because at least the one guy is like next to Ger, Holly. The guy, I think Lieutenant Holly is like,
yeah,
hey, Ger, just get him to the chopper. Just go get him to the helicopter. Like whether he's dead or not, I don't care. Like you go and I'll do suppressing fire. So I can see why at least that guy thinks that the colonel is dead, because he sees him like passed out from the grenade.
Right.
The other ones should really have no idea whether he's dead or not, but like maybe Holly in the afterlife like tells them. I don't know. But it's it's confusing to me, like whether they know that they're dead or not, because like they reenact their own deaths. You think that if you're reenacting your own death, you'd be aware that you died,
right? But they think they're good. They think they're blanks. When they hand him the guns, they're like, it's okay, they're blanks. But then when they get shot, they really get shot.
Yeah, but the one guy says it's the ritual, and we do this every time.
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to be ambiguous, because I think the point is that you got to let them rest. Like,
oh yeah, no, yeah, like I get, it's sort of like it. I know you hate when I bring this up. It feels sort of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where I'm like, I don't feel like I understand the particulars. I get the big picture. I get like where we're going with this.
Yeah.
But when I'm trying to piece apart, because like either it's just two guys having a conversation and a very vivid memory, or it's two guys doing like a voodoo blood ritual and bringing back a bunch of Vietnam era soldiers and reenacting their final death in their living room. Or it's one guy doing that with a whole bunch of ghosts plus a new ghost, or it's only ghosts and Mrs. Stacy's like, all right, I guess this is the one night a year I can't be in my house because the ghosts reenact Vietnam in front of my china cabinet.
Yeah,
so I guess I'm gonna leave.
Go with that one.
Because I just like it's that stuff at the beginning when she's like, oh, I wish you were here. I wish, like, where she cuts herself off. And like, I know that's meant to, that like, I know that they didn't put any thought into it. Like, I know that like that part goes with the beginning.
They might have. If this was it's Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So Alfred Hitchcock was known for his
putting more thought into it,
multi-layered storytelling.
Yeah.
So it could just be, I wish you would accept that this was your fault and that that's okay. That you, because Ger told him, like, you had the incorrect information. You thought that this was going to play out like this, and it didn't, and we all got killed. And like,
do you have the impression that Colonel Stacy, before Ger points his finger at him dramatically and goes like, it was your fault, you were the one, like, it wasn't Lieutenant, not Lefkowitz. What was the guy's name? The you're the one that they all blame. Wait, Leibowitz, right? Was it Leibowitz?
Yeah.
Do you have the impression that before Ger says it wasn't Lieutenant Leibowitz's fault, it was your fault, Colonel Stacy, do you get the impression that Colonel Stacy was aware of that before that moment?
Yeah, but he was trying to make it so it wasn't. Like, he was trying to go over and over and over it again to like make it somebody else's fault. That's why he's like, you just have to accept that it's there. And another thing that lends credence to the fact that this might be some sort of like either supernatural or really, really elaborate delusion is that Ger's back in his suit at the end.
Yeah.
So when we come back to the end and we're doing the wrap up, he's back in his suit.
Yeah.
Like, he got in character. Like, putting on the fatigues was the literal representation of him getting back into that mindset.
But also, if he's a ghost, like, whatever he's wearing doesn't matter. I mean, like, if he's a ghost, you can, like, it.
Well, the other guys are in
he
their
gets his clothes from
time.
a ghost. He got ghost clothes. Like, I don't know what to make of ghost clothes. Like, I feel like, I'm putting more thought into this than they did in like the nitty gritty, because I think they're doing exactly what you're saying. Like, the idea was to just, like, it's just a twist. The twist is you think that it's Colonel Stacy who's dead, and then it's everyone else who's dead. Ger is alive and Stacy is alive, and they're exercising their ghosts, just literally. I think that's all it is. It's just like, it's annoying to me just a little tiny bit, or not annoying, like, not, let me think of the way I say this. Not annoying, because like, I didn't hate this. This isn't like American Psycho 2, where I'm like, what, you killed somebody in the library in the middle of the day. What do you mean nobody saw it? That doesn't make any sense. Like, this has pieces that don't make sense, but I feel like it makes me want to puzzle it out. It makes me go, well, maybe they meant this, maybe they meant that.
It's the sticks with you kind of not making sense, where you're like, wow, I kind of want to figure out where you wanted me to go with that.
Yeah. And like, probably the end answer is nowhere. The guy is like, yeah, I drove here so that you think he's alive, until 2 minutes later you realize he's not alive. But like, the fact that he has a job and that Ger has a job, and like, I know that you're saying short timer is just that, like, in the war he had a short time left to go, but like, it's the fact that he has never shown up to a reunion before this point. Because if he's alive at the end of the war, he's the only one. If the guy's been holding these reunions for 15 years, maybe Ger's character has just been like, I don't want to be part of this for 15 years, and then just decided that he did want to be part of it. Or maybe it's like, you don't have a choice. Do you know what I mean? Like Colonel Stacy is cutting open the goat in the backyard, and he's putting blood all over the walls, and like, every spirit that's not attached to a body shoots back 15 years, like, shoots back after the war on this night, one night every year. And like, Ger, I don't know, dies in a car accident on the way to Colonel Stacy's house, and like, bam, like, there you are. Now you're a ghost. I
don't think he's a ghost. I don't think he's a ghost.
But so then why for 15 years? I agree. This feels like Forever Night, when I feel like what we're actually having is two conversations. What did they mean? And I think you're exactly right with what they meant. I think that he is alive. He shows up, he is alive, and they have this conversation with the ghosts, and then Colonel Stacy's alive, and he goes home and he's still alive. But then there's the other conversation of what did you actually show me? Because I feel like what you showed me and what you meant, they're not exactly copacetic. They're not
Right.
exactly
But
lining up.
yeah, again,
Why
this is
15
like a
years?
Hitchcock thing. The like
Just to fuck with me?
and then the like having to parse out all the parts of it. Cause like they quote Henry V.
Which I love.
We get a Shakespeare quote. So we get a Shakespeare quote. And isn't that about him winning a battle? Like, doesn't Henry V win in Henry V? He wins a battle
I've
against.
never actually seen Henry V. But I think the quote is about a battle. Yeah. I do say I will say that I really like so all of the soldier characters except for one don't seem to they have like a neutral accent, but the one guy has like a real like a Brooklyn accent, and that's the guy that
Brooklyn
they have
accent.
do Henry V, which I fucking like. I love that we have a thing where there's someone reciting Shakespeare. It's not Ger. They're reciting it to Ger, and you can see like his eye get like a little twitch while this guy with like a big fat Brooklyn accent like said some Henry V at him. Just like I was like, is this your Vietnam, sir?
And he goes, that's Henry V. And yeah, and Ger's character goes, yeah, I know. Like, yes, sir. I know the Shakespeare play. Thanks for mentioning
Do you know who you're talking to? This is fucking Garrett Wynne Davies. I wrote the book on Shakespeare. I like this. I feel confused by like the pieces that don't line up. I feel like I'm not going to be able to make them line up. I feel like it's one of those things where someone was just like, no, it's a twist. So the some of the shit in the middle doesn't matter because like here's the twist, which is fine because I liked the emotional gist of this more than I want to pull up my red string and be like, wait a minute, the guy says he has a limo, but he has no car. Like I just like I like the overall vibes because like you said, when Ger shows up, first off, macking on a lady, nice, and then immediately goes into like trauma reverie when he's looking at the photo of himself and all the other grunts, all the other Vietnam soldiers. Like immediately he's like, time does not exist. And I was like, yay. Monologue. Yay.
Yeah, there is no time. That's what he says. There is no time. Yeah.
Which I'm just going to say like sort of lends credence to he's a ghost theory, but like whatever. So then he goes...
Or that even though they died that long ago, it doesn't matter because when you're in war...
Yeah, it's always present. It's always now.
You're always present and you're always now. Yeah, so I can call you up whenever to try to work this out.
Yeah, but then why 15 years? Okay, it's whatever. I'm not going to solve it. I'm not going to solve it. I need to dig up Hitchcock's grave and be like, what the fuck?
Because this could have been literally 15 years later, 1989. What was our last in Vietnam?
But I don't know. But no, one of the characters says like we've had like this is the 15th reunion. This is your first one. Like we've done 15 of these. Because yeah, if they'd said like this is our first reunion, or like we haven't done a reunion because you weren't around, or I don't know if they had said something like that, then yeah. But they make it sound like we have done this every single year, over and over and over. Like we all know the ritual, we've all done it, and like now it's your first turn. That's where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like they're details that I think the story doesn't want you to think about, but like you seeded them in there and you have these characters say these very particular things. Like it's Forever Night all over again. Like you had these characters say these particular things that mean particular things, but you don't want me to think about it. And like, you didn't think about it. Like they're not relevant to the story that you're telling. But they're saying things that like send me down like a different pathway than the story that you're telling. Like they take me a different place. I don't know. I like it.
Could have been the first year he was invited.
Why would it be?
Because it's possible Colonel Stacy didn't want him to come and say, first of all, who do you want? Do you really want to let somebody in on your, hey, I get all my dead army buddies together one night a year so we can try to figure out how it wasn't my fault that they all died. And so he finally invited Ger because he's not making any progress. And then Ger's character is like, yeah, that's because it's your fault, which may have been why he wasn't invited until then.
I guess, but it sounds sort of like with some of the dead ones are like, okay, we need everyone to use all of their memories to like help us put the whole puzzle together. So it seems weird that they wouldn't have invited him.
Well, they couldn't have invited him. If they could have invited him. Had to invite him. If they were...
You don't know how ghost parties
dead,
work.
They couldn't have invited him. That's not how that works. It could be the 8 ounces of whiskey that Mrs. Stacy gives him at the very beginning. She's like,
She poisoned him
Here,
and
would you
drugged
like
him.
an entire cup full of high-proof alcohol? This will make the rest of the evening a lot smoother, I promise.
Yeah. This will seem very normal for you. Just drink up.
And I love how she leaves because it's too emotional. She's like, no, I find reunion nights too emotional. Okay, Stacy. She's manning the projector for the jungle sounds.
She's got the smoke machine in the background.
I don't know. I get your concerns. I get where you're coming from, that it's very ambiguous, but I think it's okay that it is. Like, and that, which is your point too, which is like,
yeah, I don't mind it because it's like two stories.
It sits with you in a, I really want to think that through. Yeah. Like,
it feels like it's exactly Forever Night, like all over again. It's like, I know what you meant, and what you meant is two guys having a conversation about the war, and I think the ghosts are meant to be like actual ghosts. I think it's because they're like moving furniture and stuff, like they're physically like making things happen around the place. So like I get the impression, like if I had to choose, like, is this a supernatural story or just like a two guys having an intense drunken conversation story? I think it's a supernatural story. I think like that's probably true in any version of this. And then it's just, is it two living guys having a conversation with a bunch of ghosts, or is it one living guy having a conversation with a bunch of ghosts, or is it in fact just like a ghost party? Like the only time that they can, because like, okay, so I'm a little OCD. So I Googled, because I was like, maybe the internet will shed some light on this. And there's a bunch of websites where they have like, like the 2-line description of an episode that you'll have like on like the TV guide, whatever. So one of them said that the reunion night is the night that Colonel Stacy died, that they meet every year on the anniversary of his death. And I was like, they didn't say anything. Like, I mean, it could be, I guess. Like, they don't tell me why this is the night that we meet every year. Like, maybe it's the night of their battle. Maybe, I mean, because presumably they knew what day it was. Maybe, and I guess that would be the night that he died if he did die. Yeah. It's the night that they all the rest of them died, I guess. But it could have been like, I just want to meet on March 1st because that's a convenient day to meet. Like, it doesn't. So I was like, huh. Like, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I think what the show wants is that he's alive. He's just like upstairs in a different room when Mrs. Stacy's like having her, like, I wish you wouldn't bring fucking ghosts and the war into my house once a year and flip all my furniture, and then the ghosts steal all my knickknacks. Like, that's not fun for me. That's why I'm leaving. Peace out. But like, I like that it could also be this widow who just is haunted by her husband, who is haunted by the war, and that once a year she just has to like let the ghosts do what they're going to do, so that they can exercise themselves. Like, I don't know. I think both versions are poignant, even though I think that probably like the intended one is the one that you say, where it's two living guys going like, we have to deal with this. We have to get over this. I was going to say something and I forgot. But yeah, I like that it's I like it. I really enjoyed it. It's weird, and it's like it's goofy. Some of the other actors, like the ones who play the 6 soldiers who don't make it, some of them are like way the fuck overacting, like too goddamn much. The guy with the Brooklyn accent, I don't think is from Brooklyn.
No.
But it was so big. But I like that it kind of gets your guard down, because you have these guys pop up in the living room, in the dining room, and they're so broad and goofy and silly and like over the top. And then all of a sudden when they're like, okay, we're going to reenact this battle, you're like, all right, you guys are like weird drunks, and you're just going to do like a weird drunken like reenactment of a battle in the living room. You're going to like break some shit and you're going to make Mrs. Stacy cry. And then it like flips into, no, we're actually taking this very seriously. And all of a sudden now we're going to be acting like our lives depend on it. And there's going to be smoke effects and there's going to be sound effects, and like,
we might all die again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I thought that was especially good, because they're like, I like how they're like, we're going to move the furniture. And we have an audio cassette tape, and that's where all the sounds are coming from. Like, they kind of ground it in reality. Yeah. And then all of a sudden no. Like all of a sudden it's, well, there's these smoke effects that were not explained and the lights are going on and off. And
they very graphically die. Like,
yeah. Yeah, the blood, yeah.
graphically bloody, like die.
And actually one of the guys, he gets stabbed in the back by, I guess, like a Viet Cong soldier, and you see a hand come in. Like you see the hand of the Viet Cong soldier come in with a little knife and go like in the guy's back, and he's like, oh, and then he collapses forward. So I like that it's like, it's not like anything that could be explained away is like, no, like the one guy just like studied special effects after he came back from the war. Like that's gone. Like there's
Yeah.
no, they take it into the realm of like, either this is one giant delusion or these are like actual ghosts using ghost special effects. So I like that they like ease you into it and then they're like, hey, actually, we're going to treat this seriously. Like you thought these guys were just big hammy hams. Like, no, here's Vietnam in a living room. Like, congratulations. Like these guys are haunted. Like they're ghosts and they're still haunted. They don't understand what happened. They don't understand how they all died. They're all blaming each other. They're all blaming the one lieutenant. They're all trying to figure out how their colonel died. Like what happened to him. I don't know. I really liked it. Like I thought
Because he needs to recognize
it was a nice palate cleanser.
He needed to recognize his own role in it so that they could forgive each other and rest in peace. And you're right. I was looking up the synopsises and they're all like, oh, it's Paul Stebbins and his 6 surviving squad members.
Yeah, that was the one version.
And you're like, what?
And I was like, well, that's
incorrect. That is incorrect. We did not watch this. Yeah, no, it was a good palate cleanser because we did a lot of like, why are you bionic? You don't need to know.
I am a robot.
We went from Airwolf, which was like eyeball death. And then to the bionic one, which was worse. And then the trilogy of terror, which was rubber rats, horrible rubber rats.
Been a rough couple of weeks.
To this, which was a really poignant, like my dad was in Vietnam. I feel like this is a thing that he would have enjoyed watching because he had a lot of feelings about the kind of the camaraderie with the people in your unit because of the things that you went through together, that there's no analog in any other space in our society, maybe like a school shooting, where you can be like, we face death together every single day, and that is a bond that transcends everything, even death.
Yeah. Well, when you've gone through something that people outside can't understand because they didn't go through it with you. And like, this is, let me just preface this by saying I'm aware that law school is not Vietnam. Like I'm aware. Don't write me letters. I'm aware. But like it's a very weird, peculiar experience where you're broken down and then built back up again into something different. And they're like your days and your nights kind of go away. And the outside world like kind of has to stop mattering for 3 years straight. And you're in it with the same small group of people. And those are the only people that have gone through this thing with you and can understand this weird, dark, sometimes traumatic experience that you went through. And that you can talk to about it because you try and explain it to someone on the outside and they're like, I don't like what, like, even if you use the right words, they're not like, they haven't been there with you and they're not going to understand.
It's like having a baby,
what that was like for you.
You can't explain to someone what they can be like, yeah, no, I've been tired. Like I've stayed up all night before. And you're like, you have no, like, I can't even explain to you what this is going to be like. I don't have a one-to-one that I can give you for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give me all the words and I can understand it on a conceptual level. I will never understand it on a lived-in level. And, So it makes sense that they're bonded so deeply that death doesn't stop them.
Yeah, I mean, Dad had a friend who got hit with a machine gun and was not supposed to survive and did. And that affected him for the rest of his life. Like he and Dad were friends for a long time. And then he went through like a dark period where he cut everybody off. And then we never heard from him again. And that was like 30 or 35 years after Vietnam. But it's so irrevocably changing that,
yeah,
you know, And we don't really, I mean, I'm trying to think, we have like, our generation has like Afghanistan and, the things immediately following 9/11. But
Yeah, people our age could have been in the
yeah,
war.
but like the
absolutely.
draft, Vietnam. Like my dad got drafted. He didn't sign up for the military. He literally just got a letter in the mail that was like, "Here you go. You're going to Vietnam, kid." And he had to sign up and go, and it ended up ending his life because he was exposed to Agent Orange while he was in Vietnam, and he developed health problems because of it that ended up killing him. And so because he got this letter in the mail, he died at 72. So,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I think that's why this is such a poignant episode, because it's like war is timeless for the people that are in it.
No, absolutely. It doesn't end when you come home, because you never really come home. I mean, that's
Right.
if there's a point to this, like, at all, like that's going to
Yeah.
be it, right?
And it was good. I was so glad to see Ger in something where he was clearly enjoying being in it. Like,
I did like when he jumped over the couch. That was fun for me, when he like has to flip over. He's like incoming, and like two guys have to kind of move like to the side so that he can just like over into the middle.
it was good. You could tell he was like, okay, I like this project.
Well, they gave him something. First off, I will say I like that. Okay, so this starts. It has the title card. Well, so it's got there are these weird little Alfred Hitchcock bookends where he's pretending to be his own brother, which I'm not going to discuss because I don't even know how to begin to address. It's weird. These weird little book. He has a mustache for some reason, but then it goes in. It's like reunion, and then the very next thing is starring Geraint Wyn Davies, and then everyone else's name I think is at the end. I think the guy who plays Colonel Stacy, I think he gets. I think his name is James Blood, so I think he maybe gets introduced, like he gets a credit in the beginning also. But like the first thing is Ger, his name, it's spelled correctly, it's nice and
He's
big.
not even Jerry.
Like, he's not Jerry this time. Or Gary or Geraint. Poor man. Poor man. But so I was like, okay, we're starting off on a good foot. Like it's starring and it's you and your name is spelled correctly. You get the whole title card is just you, like thumbs up. And then he gets to be charming and young and sexy because like has to. And then there's some Shakespeare. He gets to do the eyebrow raise one time with the one lieutenant, which I fucking love. But it's like the eyebrow raise like in character, not that thing where Ger looks at the camera and goes, I don't know why I'm here either. Let's just strap in. So like I appreciated that. He gets to like put on a uniform, which is fun for him. He gets to like jump around the furniture. I don't believe he's ever held, like I've never held a gun. Well, I've held a taser. That's different. I've never held a gun before, but like when he's shooting off his gun, I was like, sir, have you ever shot a gun before?
Yeah, in Deadly Harvest, Jesus, he kills his own mom.
With a shotgun? Because like this time he had like a giant shotgun and he's holding. Well, then why doesn't he know how to do it?
Deadly Harvest was a long time ago.
So weird.
15 I years guess. Or however long.
He's killing the Vietnamese, not his mother, so it's different. Although I will say, I mean, it's a characteristic that like he has to hold something with his hands, and it's like his first day with hands. But like whatever, that's fine. That's fine. He gets to be raucous with boys. Like he gets to have like dramatic, like stare off into the distance moments and recite monologues. Like it was a good role. It was a good. I don't fully understand it, but it was good. I liked it. I'm happy for it. I was happy. I mean, like I watched it 3 times, going to know this time I'm going to crack it, and like I feel like I did not crack it, but like I liked it, and it's the rare thing where there are characteristics and it wasn't a turd. So like I'm really happy about it.
Yeah. It was the good characteristics, the ones where he's having such a good time.
Yeah, correct. I feel like there's like, I don't know. There's like sort of a mystery, but like we kind of addressed it. Like there's not all that much to say because it's like a 22-minute episode. It's real nice and tidy. Yeah. It's real short. It's available on YouTube. There's at least 2 or 3 different people who have uploaded it. So if you look up Alfred Hitchcock Presents Reunion, and whatever episode number I said it was, 419, you'll find it. Like there are a bunch of people that have uploaded it, and the quality is like not terrible for something.
The second to last episode of this series. Yeah.
Is it?
There's only 4 seasons and there's only 20 episodes.
Fuck, that's almost a characteristic.
He wasn't in the finale.
Well, good for him for not ending an entire TV series again.
He was in the second finale, the penultimate episode.
Oh, poor Ger. Why does that keep happening? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do they keep hiring him for shit and then they're like, oh, actually, we can't. Like, is it because they paid him too much in ham and they didn't have enough for the next season?
We can't. The craft services quit.
Our ham budget is shot.
The caterers quit. We can't. They found Ger in a bathtub covered in ham. We're out. That's it. We're out. God damn it. Not again. Look, we'll come back for one more episode. As long as that guy's not in it.
We're going to get a cease and desist letter from him that just says, like, I do not eat ham. Like, sincerely yours, Ger. Oh my God, we should show up next year to Stratford with just like a giant ham in a string. And be like, he'll be like, I'm calling security. I'm not letting you guys come back anymore.
I don't eat pork. Oh. Got really complicated.
I am the ham. I don't eat the ham. My cheeks hurt from laughing at this Vietnam episode. It was good. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you rate it?
I'm going to go 5 eyebrows out of 5. And in a rare change, I'm going to combine how much I enjoyed this episode with the characteristics. Because there were not all of the characteristics, but the ones that were there were like exclamation point. He got told he was pretty. Somebody quoted Shakespeare. He got to monologue. Even though he wore a tie, he wasn't bad, but somebody did mention that his outfit was wrong. They were like, I'm sorry, you're wearing a tie. Are you aware you're not a bad guy in this episode?
Because they know. They know. They're like, sir, you're wearing a tie, but have you looked at the script? You're not evil. And he's like, Uno, flip, and reverse.
He got to do a little eyebrow raising, but he got to do his stage acting like over the topness, but in a TV show in a way that worked really, really well. So it was good. It's a combination characteristics and overall enjoyment level of the characteristics. They were folded in so well. You wouldn't have noticed them because he was actually enjoying himself.
Yeah, I feel like the ones that we don't like so much, the characteristics are like big flashing lights.
Yeah, they're like, I'm ticking these boxes because
he's playing a game with himself.
I'd really rather be at home right now. And this felt like I'm having so much fun. I'm really enjoying being here.
Yeah. Let me show you what a good actor I can be, even if I'm in a living room set and I have to flip over a couch and pretend it's Vietnam. I got this shit. I got it. I will say though that like we're at the very end when he goes full lawyer and he like dramatically points at the colonel. I was like, we don't actually. You
should start pointing, Meg.
Okay, all right.
That's why you're not a good lawyer.
That's why my career has stalled. I haven't like learned the dramatic point
exactly.
yet. Yes. Okay. So I rate this on a scale of 10 sloppy wet kisses based entirely on enjoyability. I would give this, you know what? I would give this a 9.
Oh.
And I just surprised myself by giving it a 9. Because like, I think the story that they meant to tell, good. The story that I like made up in my head by what they showed me on screen, also fun. So yeah, I think like I'm aware that like I have told a second story that is not the story they meant, but like I like that and the original story. Even though I'm confounded by like the details, I still liked this. Like it was, I don't know. It was like I said, it was like everything everywhere all at once. Where I feel like, do I have a satisfactory way of explaining all of the individual pieces? No. Did that impact my enjoyment of this? No. Did it actually make me like it a little bit more? Kinda, yeah. Which is rare because I realize most of my complaints in this series are when I watch something and I'm like, I didn't understand it, and I feel like the writers didn't either, and it makes me mad. But like in this case, I feel like I don't hate the ambiguity because it gave me something to roll around in my head like a marble and kind of play with. And at least at the end, I like ended up with a satisfactory story that I think is what was meant to be told. And then there's like all the extra pieces that I can play with, but like I know what story you wanted to tell, and like I got there with you, and like I get it. I get what you think you were telling me, which is fine. So yeah, it was poignant. It had funny moments.
It was good.
It had weird accents. Yeah, it had a couch flip, which I will keep mentioning because it's really funny to me because he's like, here I go, like flip. He just dives. It turns out that Ger wearing army fatigues and like dog tags, I'm not against it. I don't hate it.
Nope.
It's what did we discuss in Dracula where it's like new fetish unlocked? Boop, boop. Like it turns out.
Oh, look, a new one.
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
List.
I'm not happy about it. I'm not proud to be collecting these like fucking Pokemon cards, but like it is what it is, and it turns out I get the whole man in uniform thing now. I didn't before, I do now. So thanks, Ger Can Get It. I'll just add that to the fucking deck with suspenders and what are the other weird things that we've added over the course of this show? Like not rubber rats, clearly,
many
but
though.
no.
Yeah.
We've all learned and grown together. We've had a sexual awakening together on this show.
Just finished watching an episode of Lex, and there's a part where they're watching like an advertisement for a love liner, and the lady goes, "I like my men mature, cuddly, time-tested. Where are you, daddy man?" And I was like, "Oh." Like, "Oh, is that a joke?" Because
I don't like that was relatable until you said, "Where are you, daddy man?" And then I was like, well, now I feel bad about myself because I don't want to agree with the sentiment that supports "Where are you, daddy man?" But like also,
it was
tain't wrong.
Entire episode filled with actors that looked like they walked off the pages of my College Hunks issue of Playgirl, the one that I have specifically for the Forever Night article.
Oh, the one that we both own. Both the paper and digital copies of, like absolute freaks. Yeah, we need to figure out how to use that for the Patreon at some point. I don't
just censor it.
Can I just? I forgot that I had sent you pictures of some of the horrifying photos. So I was going through my photos the other day because I was trying to find something, and I was like, no, I know I sent this a while ago. So I'm like scrolling, and all of a sudden it was a wall of orange dicks, and I was like, oh no, oh god,
that, like 2 months into joining the Patreon, you were like, look at this shit. Send me pictures. You know what? You were like, let's get this all out of the way because if you aren't worth my time, I'll just be done now. And I was like, I'm fine with these dicks.
I was not. That's why I had to share them.
Yeah, some of them were terrifying. You're right. We need to figure out how to do like a Patreon exclusive episode on the Playgirl. So I guess we can leave it there.
Until next week, folks.
Until next time, friends.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Don't have any flashbacks.
No. No. Stay away from the spray tanner.